Hey there, friends. I put out a video a couple days ago, probably last week, about Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard had come out in this video and she was doing some training, looks like on a 3-gun course. And this went against everything she had ever stood for before, openly and aggressively being an anti-gun person, more specifically toward the ownership of guns, the private sale of guns, and again, more specifically, the AR-15 and standard capacity magazines, which she came out openly and lobbied against. She was using those things in that video. And then I came out in my video wondering what was up with Tulsi, because something clearly was up because it went against everything she said. I also mentioned that she could never go back to the left because she was using the one thing they hate more than anything, freedom first, but the AR-15 and standard capacity magazines. And I said that she can't go back from this. Well, she hasn't. As of today, she has left the Democrat Party. Now, odd that she's not chosen a party that she's going to be going to, which I could care less. Parties are parties are parties. They all, a bird of the same feather, flock together, all that good stuff. But clearly the reason now that she has left the Democrat Party and was doing what she did last week is she's starting up her own podcast. No problem with that. I have no issue with that whatsoever. She's got to do something because she's not in politics anymore. She stated on the record today on her Twitter account, "I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that is now under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers driven by cowardly wokeness who divide us by racializing every issue and stoke anti-white racism, actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms, or hostile to people of faith and spirituality, demonize the police and protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, believe in open borders, weaponize the national security state to go after political opponents, and above all, dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. I believe in a government that is of, by, and for the people." Unfortunately, today's Democrat Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government of, by, and for the powerful elite. I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me. In leaving the Democrat Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that so-called woke Democrat ideologues are taking our country, I invite you to join me. And then she goes on to say, click the link below to watch my full statement on why I'm leaving the Democrat Party. That full statement that she posts below is actually her first episode of her podcast, The Tulsi Gabbard Show. Guys, I have no problem with this. I just want to see where she stands. I mean, it's one of those things where she's kind of picked a side by default because she's unpicked the side that she was on. So I guess to answer the question from last week, what is Tulsi Gabbard up to? This is it. She's now going to have her own podcast, and it looks like she has not only left the Democrat Party, but turned very aggressively against it and really called them out on some pretty serious allegations and charges that we all know. and again, it's like most politicians, it's not just Democrats that fall in this category, but she's really coming out with teeth to bear against this Democrat Party that she is no longer a part of. So that's what's happening with Tulsi Gabbard. Only time will tell. Notice she mentions nothing in her statement about the Second Amendment. I feel like she came out last week shooting the AR-15 and standard capacity magazines and a handgun in what looked like a sanctioned type competition or something. I think she did that because she knows where her audience is. She knows that she's going to have a right-leaning audience, and of course the majority of them are pro-Second Amendment. So I think that's why she did that, to try to lend some credibility, and she looked, relatively efficient with using those firearms. Don't give me the whole, oh, she's part of the Army. That's why. The Army doesn't give you adequate training unless you're some kind of special forces or whatever. That's not where she learned that training from. She got that training somewhere private. There's no doubt about it. So let's see what she does. I think today she was actually on the Joe Rogan show. So that's kind of interesting. I may go listen to that podcast a little bit later on. I listened to bits and pieces of Tulsi's first podcast, but it was essentially the same thing. Just a little bit more detail of what she posted on her Twitter account, but very interested to see what her conversation with Joe Rogan produced. So keep an eye on that. Hey, if she's going to become a proponent of the Second Amendment and a defender of the Second Amendment, good for her. I just feel like she has to come out and say, I was wrong about my position before, and now this is where I stand. Only time will tell, guys.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
He's so horrible!